Put a finger down if you've ever went to start a craft project, you've brought your design onto your design mat only to realize that that design was flawed and is not going to work out the way you'd hoped. Let's talk about it. I have been absolutely obsessed lately with the corner bookmarks. I think they're just adorable. So I saw this file on Creative Fabrica and I thought I am going to make some of these, and I brought the design into Silhouette Studio onto the design mat and realized straight away that these files are not really going to work. These score lines are just going to weaken the cardstock, and these are going to fall apart quickly. The details in the leaves are entirely too thin. These are not going to cut well out of cardstock at all, and these pieces in the sunflower are not attached, so they're just going to fall out completely, and the design will not look like this at all once it's cut. Now we can either fix this or we can recreate the design. I've honestly found that it is easier to just recreate it. It takes no time at all. So let's focus on that. The main part of the bookmark is just basic shapes. Let's go to our drawing tool and grab a rectangle, draw that out so that it's about the same size as that top tab. We can duplicate that. Open up the transform panel, go to the third tab and rotate it 90 degrees. Now that is perpendicular and we can use it for this center piece here. And set that in place and pull it out so that it's wider. Now the original design does have rounded corners. I am okay with the squared corners, but if you did want rounded corners, of course you would just grab the rounded rectangle instead of the regular rectangle. Now this is, of course, too tall, so we're going to grab this little square here and just pull it down. We need all of our shapes overlapping because in just a minute we are going to weld them together so that it becomes one solid piece. Let's work on this top tab. This is what's going to hold our design together. I'm using a rectangle once again, and I am going to set my cursor up in this corner and just drag it down so that the top corner meets this corner up here. To cover the extra space, we can double click to bring up the editing points and just pull this over a little bit, and the same on the other side. I did do a trial run with these bookmarks, and I noticed that another issue with this design is this tab comes out too far. We need the end of this tab to be back behind this piece here. So let's use our shift key to select both of these editing points and just use the arrow on our keyboard to pull it back a little bit so that our tab is back behind the edge of the bookmark. We're already making progress here. Now we need to fill in a triangle shape on either side. When you go to your drawing tools, there is no triangle, but there is this polygon. Let's click on that and draw it out. You can see it comes in as a pentagon. We can use this slider here and pull it down so that there are only 3 sides, and now we have our triangle. If we right click on this, we can convert to path and rotate it and get it scaled to size and then set it in place. It does come up over the top of our design, and we can fix that with the editing points as well. Double click, grab this editing point and just drag it down so that it is within the bookmark outline. Let's click off of that to turn off the editing points. Right click and duplicate. Then we are going to right click on the new one and flip that horizontally. Now we can pull that right into its place over here. Now this is a great start to the bookmark. Let's pull this off to the side, select all of our pieces, right click and weld them together. This is the basic shape that we need to start with. Now from the trial run, I did learn that we don't want any part of our design above this tab, and we don't want it to come into the fold area either. So any design we put in here, we want to keep within this space. I decided to use the silhouette of a cat, and this is too big, so let's scale it down to start with. Then I am going to take the cat and set it right up against this guideline. I'm going to right click and duplicate, right click and flip horizontally, and I'm going to set this one right up against this guideline. I think they need to go up a little bit, so I can select both of them and bump them up. with the arrow key on my keyboard. That makes sure that they are staying even. Now, I do not want them this close to the center. Again, we want to keep this area clear. To make sure we're moving them out equally, we can select one of the cats, go up to this icon here, and just use the arrow keys and count how many times we move it over. If you know how far you want to move it over, you can enter the distance here, but we're just kind of eyeballing this design, so I don't have an exact number. I think 3 is good. Now we can select this one and bump it over to the right 3 clicks, and they're still evenly spaced. Now I can select both of the outlines, open up the offset panel, and create an offset. I want it thicker than this because the cat is going to be a cutout, and we don't want these edges too thin. It'll end up very flimsy. So let's bump the distance up a little bit. We don't really want to lose the shape, but we do want it to be sturdy. I think that will be okay. Let's go ahead and click apply. Then we can right click and group the offsets together. Holding down our shift key, let's click on the bookmark shape so that the offset and the bookmark are selected. The cats are not. We can right click and weld. Now we need to get the cats to actually cut out of the design. So this time we're going to select the bookmark and the cats, right click, and make a compound path. And that looks pretty good, except for these 2 holes here. We want to fill those in. Let's go ahead and zoom in a bit. Now we can double click on our design to bring up the editing points. Just choose whichever one and click your backspace until it's gone. This button fits the design back to the window, and this is looking really good. The only thing that's left is our score lines now. In the original design, they have it scoring down the center here, and they have a score mark for folding the tab over. We can create a score line with our line tools. Just click on Draw a Line. We can come over and set our cursor right in this corner. Hold down our shift key, that's going to keep it level, and pull that out. Now that looks a little bit high, so we can just bump it down with our arrow key. Now we can duplicate that, open up our transform panel, go to the 3rd tab, and click on Rotate to 90 degrees. We can set this right in place here and just drag that out until it meets the bottom edge. If you are using the auto blade to create your score lines, you're going to want to set this as a dashed line. You can do that by coming up here, clicking on this arrow, and this drop down menu will come up. I typically choose the 2nd pattern, and you can see that it does in fact turn it into a dashed line. I will be using the embossing tool to create my score line, so I'm going to set this back to a solid line. This one is selected, so holding down my shift key, I'm going to select the other one, right click and group those together, and set the color to blue. For my bookmark, I'm going to change the line color to red. Now I can set this up so that the red lines cut and the blue lines score over on the send page. But first we want to get rid of the original. So right click and delete. Now you can see here that I have the red and the blue lines checked. The red lines are going to be cut with my auto blade. Carriage number 1 is lit up here. The material is cardstock. It's set to auto cut. If you come down here, you can see that I have adjusted my settings because I am going to laminate the cardstock before I send it through to cut. So I have my blade depth set at 6, a force of 30 with 2 passes. And this will cut right through the cardstock and the laminate perfectly on my machine. The blue lines are set for carriage 2. I do have the setting for cardstock still, and the function is auto emboss. But if you come down here, you will see that I'm getting the setting not found error. I have not set up a user-defined action for this. And to get around that, all you'll need to do is click on that arrow and choose sketch instead of auto emboss. Now we can load our media and get this sent through. I did say in the software portion of the video that I was going to laminate this cardstock. So I am applying the laminate, but I wanted to show you that I am going to cut this with the laminate down on my mat, the cardstock facing up, because when it scores, I want it to score the cardstock, not the laminate.